Alright everyone, thanks for coming tonight. This setup of the camera took some time, so I apologize. We apologize for it. Okay, so tonight I'm going to talk about this famous subject of the Mayan calendar and its end date, perhaps, which is a big point of curiosity for you. And of course, there are many things revolving around this subject, and it's not just limited to the Maya or just limited to the calendars, their calendars. So it's going to be a long lecture. I hope you're ready for it, at least 2 hours. I don't know how long. Depends on my pace. Okay, first of all, who is this guy sitting here? My name is Fatih. Some of you know me from the school. I'm from Turkey, and I have a degree in sociology, so I kind of have this background in looking at the change in societies and the world. But after my graduation, I didn't practice sociology in an academic way. Rather, I was more interested into philosophy and spirituality. That's why I've been practicing yoga intensively in the last couple of years. However, the Mayan calendar is such a topic that helps us to understand the societies and the changes of the societies and their mentalities from a spiritual standpoint. So somehow spirituality and sociology comes together in the Mayan calendar, in my understanding. So what am I going to present you tonight? Let's just go over the contents of tonight, and so you would have a basic idea. The first item is current crisis of humanity and the end of the Mayan calendar, ecological disasters or celestial catastrophes. Second point, 2012 myths and urban legends. There are many myths and legends revolving around 2012 which are not entirely realistic or scientific. We're going to discuss about them. And the third point is about the shift of perspective from chronological time to spiritual time. We tend to look at time from a very chronological and mechanical standpoint, and this won't really help us very much if you want to look at the Mayan calendar and why this is what I'm going to express. Comparison of the Mayan calendar with the Vedic cycles of yugas. I guess this is very interesting for you who are interested in tantric understanding of time and the Veda science and the Vedic cycles of the yugas. Understanding and measuring the evolution of consciousness. Evolution of consciousness is a term which has been described by Sri Aurobindo, for instance, in the beginning of the 20th century. But before really going into the depths of the Mayan calendar and being able to understand its time cycles, nobody was able to measure the evolution of consciousness. We always talk about evolution of consciousness. Yes, the consciousness is evolving, humanity is coming to a higher standpoint, higher consciousness, but we haven't been able to measure it up, and the Mayan calendar will help us with the measuring of the evolution of consciousness. So another point, from the first cells to the enlightened human beings, a purposeful universe. Our universe has a purpose. According to the fundamental Western science, life is just a coincidence. We are here sitting on this hall because of a chance, because of many chances, many accidents that are coming over and over, and by mere luck we are just sitting here and our life has no purpose. But Mayan calendar, the perspective of the Mayan calendar will help us to understand all the evolution, all the biological evolution and all the manifestation of the universe from a meaningful standpoint, and we can understand that the universe has a purpose, and this is one of the points. And another point then follows is that the Mayan calendar is about you. It's not just about some celestial events or some meteoroid coming to eat our Earth or something. It is about us. It is about you. It's about me and everyone in this hall, everyone watching this. So it's pretty important to look at the Mayan calendar from this perspective. And finally, since we are here in this yoga school, I would like to make an analysis of the Agama Yoga school and its history, and we're going to, of course, look at it from a Mayan calendar perspective. This will be in the very end of the lecture. So let's start with the first item. If my computer wants me to. Okay. I want to start with some ecological warnings. Maybe some of you are very well aware of these facts, but maybe some of you are not aware, because never in the mainstream media we talk about these things, they talk about these things. Recently, because of the Copenhagen Climate Conference and other things, people started discussing these things more. But according to one really very nice movie on the internet called The Home, there are some statistics, and this movie is all about how the Earth is in the troubles that the Earth is in, like kind of in terms of nature and the resources and the food and the waters and the oceans and everything else. So one of the main problems of the Earth today is water. Water is, of course, I believe you are aware that is the most essential element for human life in general. And according to the statistics, before 2025, 2 billion people will be affected by lack of water. Also, in the movie it says every day 5,000 people are dying because of lack of good water, healthy water. And this is getting worse and worse. So this is one of the major problems of our planet today, and as long as most of us are in our 20s and 30s, most probably we're going to experience 2025 in our lives, and this is going to be a big problem in terms of water. Another big statistics is that 40% of the arable land suffered long-term damage. So agriculture, the industrial agriculture, the how to say, what's the word for that? I'm not an ecological expert, but like one type of crops mentality in agriculture industry is killing a lot of biodiversity, and this results with the lands losing their fertility, so to say. So you cannot grow food in that specific soil for a long time, like maybe 500 years or maybe 2,000 years, because for the nature it takes around 2,000 years to build this fertile soil, which is like the 30 centimeters on the top. But around the globe we lost 40% of this soil, which would mean a lot of food crisis for humanity, which is coming in the near future. And when we look at the nature of agricultural industry, there's not much hope that this is going to be changing. So maybe this will be 50%, 60%, 70%, and soon there won't be enough soil for us to grow enough food. Also, like the fishing industry is very wild in the world, and 3/4 of fishing grounds are exhausted, depleted, or in dangerous decline. This would also mean that very soon we are not going to have a lot of fishes to eat. I mean, of course, you might say you're vegetarians, you don't eat fish, but anyhow, it's an important source for human nutrition overall in the planet. So these statistics continue. I just want to give a few more. And just, can we pause for a second? Can we pause? I need to fix this presentation problem. So in this movie, one of the statistics given is that humanity has less than 10 years to change the course, to change this course of consumption and save the life on Earth. So we have less than 10 years to do major steps and actions which will stop this catastrophe, this ecological catastrophe. Otherwise, we're going to lose the life on planet. So it's pretty important, and this is all about us. The way we are consuming, the way we are eating, the way we are traveling. So it's directly related with us. And by another statistics, we will need 2 more planets by 2030. World Wildlife Foundation prepared a report called Living Planet in 2008, and they said we need 2 more planets by 2030 because we are consuming in such a way and we are not giving it back. We are just taking and not giving it back. So this is, of course, a major problem of the society today. This is a lot of results which are not sounding very pleasant. And of course, we're going to discuss about this. And for example, today, one of the perhaps most authoritative Mayan resource, Don Alejandro Oxla, the leader of the Mayan people today, talks about these things. And he's talking about how we are losing the water, how we are losing the forests, how we are losing life, how people are being more aggressive, and how we are being more being less sharing. We are doing less sharing, and we are always accumulating for ourselves, and this creates a lot of problem. And the Mayan calendar is all about the purification in this mentality. So we need a big change in our mentalities. And I'm going to present you tonight that this shift is going to happen. But of course, it won't happen automatically. It has to happen here first, in our minds, in our consciousness. That's why I'm starting this lecture by giving you these statistics, that the world is in trouble and it is looking at us to change something. It's not about a light that is coming from the center of Pleiades or some galactic alignment or whatever. Also, we're going to talk about them. They don't have a lot of scientific foundations. So the Mayan calendar is all about us. It's all about how we look at life, how we can change our consciousness, how we can shift to a higher consciousness. Actually, a consciousness of oneness. We're going to talk about that as well. So let's talk a bit about the 2012 myths. One of the very famous one is about this galactic alignment. And it's coming from the author John Mayer Jenkins. Jenkins is very famous as being a Mayan calendar expert around the world now. If you Google his name, you'll find many web pages or articles or videos, and he has a lot of books as well. But a friend of mine that I met on internet, Marcos, he's a professional archaeologist and he's also very good in astronomy. He basically says in his webpage that according to John Mayer Jenkins, the galactic alignment is the alignment of solstice meridian with the galactic equator. So this conjunction of the solstice sun with the galactic equator already took place in December 21st, 1998. So it's not going to happen in 2012. It happened already. Although, in fact, we can't say that it just happened on one day, because an alignment of the solar system or our sun with the entire galactic equator wouldn't just happen in one day, because these are huge space. The galactic equator occupies a lot of space. So this conjunction takes place around 100 years. It doesn't happen only on one day. It happens on every 21st of December for around 100 years. And December 21st, 1998 is the peak point of this. But this is only one aspect of this galactic alignment theory that Jenkins brings forth. Because for Jenkins, this is kind of, the way Jenkins puts it is that you understand things not very clearly. Because he talks about alignment with the galactic equator. He also talks about an alignment with the dark rift in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy. Also, he talks about a galactic center. So these three things are three separate things in his scientific understanding, and these have nothing to do with reality. Also, according to Marcos, this alignment with the dark rift will happen on 2032. So it's 20 years after 2012. Again, Jenkins misses the target here. And if he tries to make his theory valuable, he's still trying to correct himself, Jenkins. He says the sun will be in conjunction with the galactic center. However, this is also not true, because this will happen in 2225. So there are three different conjunctions that Jenkins talks about, and he tries to somehow align them with the Mayan calendar and says this event or these events will happen on 21st of December 2012, which are astronomically not true, and also they are different events. They are not just one event. So this is just a urban legend. This galactic alignment thing doesn't have a scientific ground. And there are so many myths that I can talk, and this lecture would be too long. But I just want to give one more, which is also a famous one. Is somehow related with the shifts of the poles. And this is depending on another aspect of the movement of the solar system, which is crossing the galactic equator. The three ones that I talked about before, the Jenkins-Pusford, are somehow related with the wobbling movement of the Earth. So it has nothing to do with the movement of the solar system. But this one is somehow depending on this information we have that our solar system is revolving around the center of the galaxy, and we have a galactic equator, and there are two hemispheres of our galaxy, a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere. And when our solar system is traveling around the center of the galaxy, it makes a sinusoidal movement, and it goes to the northern hemisphere and to the southern hemisphere. And each time our solar system moves from the southern hemisphere to the northern, or the northern from the southern, there happens a magnetic shift because the hemispheres have different polarities, and this results with a electromagnetic shift also on the planet Earth. And according to the theory, this would create some catastrophic events on the planet, and the poles would shift places, and this would be kind of a catastrophic end. However, even if that is true, that it would lead to a catastrophic event, this crossing of the galactic equator, this event happens only once every 63 million years. Because the sun travels around the center of the galaxy in 250 million years approximately, and one sinusoidal movement completed is 63 million years. So let's say our solar system has passed through the north to the northern hemisphere. It will take 63 million years for it to go down to the southern hemisphere. And when was the last time we crossed from south to north or north to south? According to the Copenhagen University Department of Astronomers, it happened around 3 million years ago. So there's no reason for us to wait a catastrophic shift of the poles in 2012, because it won't happen before 60 million years. Because the final one happened 3 million years ago. So this is also another myth or urban legend that has no scientific basis. Okay, so the question is then, why there are so many information on the internet, and why there are so many books about Mayan calendar? Also, maybe you have seen this movie 2012. Last year it was across the cinemas. It's all about this catastrophic end, and in the movie they talk about the Mayan calendar, and according to the Mayan calendar, the Mayans predicted that 21st of December 2012 the world will come to an end. So have you ever questioned, is this having a reality behind it? Have you ever checked any authentic Mayan resources? I did instead of you, so tonight I'm going to explain what they are saying. And all these theories that crossing of the equator, alignment with the galactic center or whatever it is, are not the authentic words of the Mayan people. These are expressed by some researchers like John Mayer Jenkins and others, and these words are put into the Mayans' mouth, and they say Mayans are saying this, Mayans are saying that, Mayan calendar is talking about that. But in reality, that's not true. And scientifically, it's not true as well. But what is true? Of course, I'm not just going to talk about what is unreal about the Mayan calendar. There are some things that Mayan calendar help us to understand and predicts accurately. And so I would like to read just one passage from a book. And it says, regardless of what forms such a financial collapse may take, it seems that the best bet is for it to occur close to the time that the fifth night begins, in November 2007. Strictly speaking, 19th of November 2007. So this is from the book Mayan Calendar and the Transformation of Consciousness, written by Carl Johan Kaleman in 2003. So let's look at the sentence again. It's talking about a financial collapse, and the prediction is that it would happen by the energy, according to a certain energy which is called the fifth night in the Mayan calendar. And this fifth night begins in November 2007. And let me give you the extra information. It ended in November 2008. So in this time frame, from November 2007 to November 2008, did we experience a financial collapse? Was there important financial breakdown in the world? Yes, right? So this is some reality. this prediction that in year 2008 there would be a financial crisis is coming from a specific understanding of the Mayan calendar, and it is actually explored by Carl Johan Kaleman, author of this book. And he has written this book in 2003, 5 years before the actual crisis, and no financial expert would have been able to predict that. And also, Kaleman has another book which he has written in 2001, and he also gives the same prediction in that book. You can just buy this book over internet and just you can email me and I can tell you exact page and just confirm for yourselves. So, and yeah, to support my argument, we can just look at the Dow Jones Index from January 1, 2008 and until the beginning of 2009. So the Dow Jones Index actually started around 13,000, and it had a big turn down during 2008. And at its bottom location, you can see it's almost around 6,000. And today, the Dow Jones Index is still not higher than 10,000. It's around 10,000. The 13,000 level hasn't been recovered yet. So, which means also that the financial crisis is still going on. That happens by the beginning of the fifth night. So, okay, now maybe you are wondering, how did Kaleman had an accurate prediction? Well, tonight I'm going to give you all the basic information about this, hopefully, and you will be able to make your own conclusions about it. Well, if you're curious about who is this guy, he's a Swedish scientist, an expert in biology, physical biology. He has given his life for researching the Mayan calendar since 1993, and he has written 3 books as named here, one in 2001 and in 2003. His final book was published last year, which is also very interesting, and his webpage is there. So, according to Kaleman, if we want to understand the Mayan calendar truly, first we want to understand how we perceive time, how we look at time. In our modern life, we perceive time as something mechanical, something chronological. And this is because of our traditions, of our calendars that we have been using. All the calendars, the Jewish calendar, Buddhist calendar, Gregorian calendar, Muslim calendar, all these calendars are astronomically based, which means that they are either based on the cycles of the Earth around the Sun or the moon cycles around the Earth. And this somehow gives us an understanding of time as a mechanical event. Time is a mechanical event. And according to the ancient Greek philosophers, time has 2 aspects. One of them is called Chronos, the other is called Kairos. And all these calendars, all these astronomical understandings of time are actually only one aspect of time, according to the ancient Greek. It's just Chronos, or Chronos, better pronounced. On the other hand, we can talk about Kairos. What is Kairos? It's not mechanical time. It is the right time. Like, are you experiencing any synchronicities in your life? Like things happening at the right time, things getting together, people getting together, events getting together at perfect synchronicities? Well, that is Kairos. That is spiritual time, so to say. It's not mechanical, it's not astronomical. Time is depending on some synchronicities and having a spiritual nature or a metaphysical nature, so to say. The Chronos is a physical time. Kairos is more a metaphysical type of time. So the Mayan calendar, the prophetic Mayan calendar, which talks about all these prophecies and evolution of consciousness in 2012, is in space and a metaphysical time. It's a spiritual calendar. It is all about Kairos. It's not about Chronos. So if you want to understand the Mayan calendar with our Googles of Chronos, and we wanted to see it as a mechanical time, as it explains mechanical time, we're going to make a fundamental error here. And that's what Jenkins have done, And that's what other Mayan calendar experts have done. The Mayan calendar cycles are, although they can be related very well with astronomical cycles like the Venus cycles or other cycles like moon cycles, or they also have calculated the solar year perfectly. They know very good astronomy, of course. But in their core, their systems are spiritual. Or in fact, I should just have to explain, I have to explain to you that they have different calendars or different calendrical systems. They also have Chronos type of calendars like the Hop, which is a solar calendar, and which in the Hop, 1 year is 365.25 days, which is exact solar year. And they also have two different systems called Zolkin and Tun. And one Zolkin cycle is 260 days, and one Tun cycle is 360 days. But why not 365 but 360? And where does 260 comes from? To answer this question, you need to be aware that these are metaphysical, spiritual time cycles, not astronomical. Although still they can be linked with astronomical events. And for example, 260 days. Where do we measure it? Where do we observe this in the universe, in our lives? 260 days is approximately 9 months. Well, 260 then is approximately the time a baby lives in a mother's womb, right? It's the time cycle that we go through before we take birth. And according to the Mayan culture, this is an individual time cycle. And it helps us to understand our individual life purpose, our individual spiritual evolution. And the time in the mother's womb is the very first spiritual cycle, and then after we take birth, we have 260 day cycles of individual evolution. Okay, this has been the Zolkin. But then how about the Tun? Tun is 360. And according to some other cultures on this planet, like Sumerians or Chinese or Egyptians, there is a spiritual time which is 360 days. And this can be looked like every orbit has 360 degrees. So the Earth's movement around the sun can be 360 degrees, or sun's movement around the galaxy center can be measured as 360 degrees. Or even in the atomic structure, the electrons travel around the nucleus of the cell, the nucleus of the atom, in a 360 degree orbit. So 360 therefore is kind of a universal time unit. From micro to macro, everything can be measured with 360 degrees or 360. So Tun therefore is somehow is not limited by the relationship between the Earth and the Sun. It is expanding beyond the solar system, and it is somehow in resonance. The number 360 is in resonance with all the levels of the universe. It's a holographic time cycle, maybe you want to call it. Anyway, but this is very important because most of the lecture tonight, when we want to understand Mayan calendar, we're going to look at this Tun system. And of course, Kalaman comes up with all these accurate predictions by looking at the Tun calendar. And it is actually coming from archaeological finding called the Koba stone. And on the Koba stone, there are different time cycles, not just Tun. And if we analyze these time cycles, we can see that, like here at the very left column, we see the Mayan time units, and on the very right column, we see the astronomical time. And when we look at the Winal, for example, in the second column, the kin is very basic. It's the day. It's just 1 day. And Winal is 20 days long. And it's a spiritual cycle. Again, it's not the cycle of the moon. It's not a lunar cycle. And funny enough, interesting enough, for example, where I come from, Anatolia, there's a famous spiritual time cycle called 40 days. When a baby is taking birth, after 40 days, there's a certain ceremony or ritual done. Or when after one person passes away, there's a special prayer that is read after 40 days. And recently, I heard from my grandmother that there's also a concept of half 40. which is then 20 days, where there is also some specific ceremonies or rituals taking place spiritually. So the interesting thing is the Anatolia and Central America are pretty far. And these cultures were kind of somehow aware of these spiritual time cycles that are lasting 20 days. Also in the Tibetan culture, 40 days